Hi, and welcome to this Dimecast about CocoaPods, the dependency manager for Objective-C projects. While we're going to use this for an iOS project, you can also use this for any Mac projects as well that you're doing with Objective-C. As far as what is a package manager or a dependency manager, you may be familiar with NuGet in the .NET space, or Ruby Gems in the Ruby space, or NPM Node Package Manager in the Node space. Basically what it does is it allows you to take dependencies in your project without having to worry about what it takes to keep them updated, configure your project, include them in the project, all of those things. These managers take care of that for you and they make it very, very easy. The first step we have to do is install. And in fact, CocoaPods itself is a Ruby gem. So to install it, we just issue the command sudo gem install CocoaPod. I've already got CocoaPods installed on my computer, so what you see, your output here on the terminal, will most likely be different than mine. Next, we're going to actually go ahead and create our Xcode project. Okay, create new Xcode project. We're going to say iOS application, single view application. I'm going to call it Hello CocoaPods. Leave all the information the same, click next. Choose a location in our Dimecast folder. And now we're actually going to just file, close project. Because the next step, we click getting started, is we need to do a pod init in our directory. So if I look, I have a Hello CocoaPods. If I pod init, you'll notice now there's this pod file. And if we open it, we get this file, which keeps track of our dependencies for us. So let's set our platform. We're going to set iOS 7. And now we need to pick some pods to add in. So if we look back at the website, we can search for one. So I'm going to look for a HUD, and I'm going to choose MB Progress HUD, which is a very popular option. You hover right on this clipboard and click it. We're going to have what we need. And then we just paste it in here, and we're set to go. You just save it, exit. And now from our terminal, we just do pod install. And all our dependencies are installed. You'll notice now it says from now on use Hello CocoaPods XC workspace. We're not going to use the project file anymore. This is kind of like, if you're familiar with .NET, it's more like a solution file, which is going to encompass all the projects instead of just the project file. So now we can come back to CocoaPods, or come back to Xcode. We don't want this anymore. We're going to open Other. And you'll see you now have XC Workspace. Use this from now on. So now over here in the Project Navigator, we have the Hello CocoaPods project that we created, and we also have this pods project. If we look in it, here's the pod file. Here are our pods. Any frameworks that need brought in are brought in automatically and linked to the project. So now if we look at our CocoaPods, I'm going to pull up our storyboard, and I'm going to add one button to the page. And And I'm going to change this text to say show HUD. Now I'm going to bring up the Citizen editor. Control click over to here. Button was clicked, UI button, connect. Now, let's bring in that HUD. Because everything was already taken care of us by CocoaPods, we can just import progress HUD. And now we can act. Okay, let's see what we have. You just call MB progress HUD. It's a class level method. Show HUD added to the self.view. Animated, yes. Let's give it a go. Hit the button. And there's our HUD. We've done the bare minimum here to get this involved. Let's stop and add two things. First, I wanted to add some constraints. Let's make that button horizontally and vertically centered. So if you're using any other simulator, you get the correct. We'll have some alignment and the button doesn't go off the screen for you. Secondly, let's do a little bit more with the HUD. So this actually will return one that we can work with. So if we just capture that, we'll say HUD.label text equals we're going to say we're doing something very important. And then we're ultimately going to want to close it. But in order for you to see this happen, we're going to add a small delay. So first, let's create another method. Just called close HUD. So we're going to hide all HUDs for self.view, animated, yes. Okay, so how are we going to call this? There's a method that's available on view controllers called perform selector. This selector is going to be a method actually that you, or more technically a message that you'd like to pass. The way you call it is you say @selector and then the name of the method. In our case it was close HUD with object self. After delay, we'll call it after 3 seconds. So now when we click the button, it should bring up the HUD, it should show the text is doing something very important, and then after 3 seconds, we should close it. There you go. A piece of trouble that you could possibly run into. CocoaPods had an issue where their specs repository was broken, and if you've ever installed it before and then you try to follow my tutorial, this happened to me while I was walking through the demo before recording it, you end up getting an error about the repository and that it can't fast forward master. So if you come in here, if you Google the error message, you'll find this repairing our broken specs repository, and you have to remove CocoaPods repository from your computer and then just call pod setup again. It'll reinstall and then everything will work correctly. So what have we accomplished? I've showed you how to include CocoaPods into your project, how to find and add pods, how to use the workspace instead of the project, and then how to import your CocoaPod into your project, into your code files, and use it just like it was your own code that you had written side by side. That's all for now.